Next up, we have the Brazilian steak. It's like tiny pieces of steak, but it has a better marbling than the strip loin that you get that's just generic from Landers. So you have this. This is the Brazilian steak that they have. It's pink in the middle. I wish I cooked it for less time. I cooked these. This was cooked at a 3-minute to 4-minute time on each side. This one was 2 and 3 because it's a thinner cut. But what I've noticed right away while I was cutting at the Brazilian steak, it's just more tender. It's easier to cut. And when you look at the raw meats together, the Brazilian actually has a little bit more marbling than the generic one that they have at Landers. This is still from Landers. It's the Brazilian steak that they have. It comes in multiple pieces per package. So since I think that I've under-seasoned, I'm going to add some more salt. You soak up some of that butter. I always put a little bit of butter on my steak. This is the Brazilian one. It's delicious. A little more tender than the other one, but not as tender as your usual USDA grade steaks. It's not as tender as the Tajima or the Meltik, but it's great. It's something you probably order from a restaurant, that kind of tenderness. It's still a little firm. Maybe it's because I cooked it longer than I should have because it's a thinner cut. But overall, it's very tasty, maybe because it's fattier. And it's a different part. It's a ribeye, so there's more fat there than the strip loin. But overall, it's a little more tender. It's a tad bit more tender than the generic steak I have from Landers. This is still from Landers, but it's the Brazilian one. And it's delicious. You get multiple pieces from the Brazilian one. You get like 5 pieces per pack. It's a little more expensive than the generic one, and the pieces are smaller and less thick, but quality-wise, it's a better quality than the generic one. It's just that if you have a hankering for steak and you want to be filling up on steak and probably doing the carnivore diet, you probably go for the Landers one. It's going to be heavier in the tummy because it's less tender, I suppose. But yeah, well, look at how pink that is. So yeah, I dipped it in some eggs. So far, I love both steaks. Depending on how much budget I have for that month, I probably based my steak choice on my budget. Overall, I do recommend their steak. If you have money and you just want to experience this eating steak at home, these are good choices.